Hello, 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 and welcome to the Rag Company Podcast. Today, a DETALKSCAST.
Oh, yeah.
And
Ooh.
a special one at that. So, by the way, DETALKSCAST, that's where we have a guest from the detailing industry or detailing adjacent industry. I would say this guy counts.
Yeah.
So, today, who do we have, gentlemen?
Mr. Dave Phillips of P&S Sales. Dave, welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
You guys might want to know who he is, but he is
Right.
the father of Beadmaker.
This
Just in case you want
just
to know.
in case the father of Beadmaker is present, he is amongst us. He's
And a number
preaching.
of other products, but Beadmaker, you guys know we just lose it every time we mention the words. So, any rate, Dave, if you want to give us just a brief history lesson on yourself.
Who are you? Where did you come
who are
from? How did this get started?
So P&S Sales is basically a detailing family. My father started the company in 1961 with 4 other partners.
Mm-hmm.
They eventually retired over time. Bob and I got involved in the late 80s. Bob was earlier 80s. So like 81, I kind of came into the company around 83, but we grew up with P&S Sales the entire time.
Yeah.
I went to school in Davis and got a degree in, actually my degree's in biology. I didn't want to leave school, so I had a lot of classes. At one point, I kind of had to make a decision. I was going both towards biology and chemistry. I chose biology, but I should have probably just done a double major. It was right there. So I got involved with formulating products for P&S Sales in '87. Before that, I was at Davis, and I was actually running a sales route.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
In '87, I started formulating products for a company that had actually been one of my dad's partners, and he had split off, started doing his own manufacturing for other people and for us. But Bob and I decided around '89 that we needed to go completely back into our own manufacturing. Yeah. So we presented the idea to my dad as far as a business plan. We moved out of San Francisco and into Hayward, and went over about a 2-year period, began going back into our own manufacturing. We've been doing our own manufacturing since 91. 89 really, but building up to 91.
Wow.
So it goes without saying you've been doing this a while.
I've been doing this a while, right?
Yeah.
Those are all in the 1900s, right?
Yeah, that counts.
Got
that
the gray
counts.
hair.
That's some decades. So, well, by the way, I know we were talking before we came on air about a number of things, and we'll get into all of them. But you're not just a chemist. You're a detailer as well. You fancy yourself as a detailer. So
yeah, I've been involved in detailing my entire life. Both as my own vehicles, and I always like to joke that as a kid I was detailing my bike in the garage. But, as I grew up, I kept going through detailing, selling detail products, that sort of stuff. I feel like where I really made a turning point was with Rennie. I've always been a detailer. Always polished cars. Always worked with buffers and the products and that sort of stuff. But when I got involved with Rennie, we got invited to do Air Force One, and I felt like really when I got done with that, as a very, very talented group of detailers, we spent a week or two polishing aircraft, 6 to 8 hours a day. When I got done with that, I really felt like I'd changed my perspective from being a chemist that knew some detailing to more a detailer that knew some chemistry, and so that was a pretty distinct moment for me, and I really feel like I've hung on to that. I really feel like more of a detailer, and then I love to make products that do the job.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, no, we went and did Air Force One, and we didn't get to work as hard.
No. Yeah. I felt bad. I
felt bad that we didn't get to work as hard as everybody.
Cameras, and I'm looking like I probably should be doing something.
But I know exactly what you feel like. For me, it was the same thing. Like I was a detailer for a number of years, but working on that project and working with all those guys, it changes you. Mm-hmm. It makes it's a very, I don't know, it's almost a spiritual and an emotional moment at the same time, because there's so much history in that thing, but then the group and the caliber of folks, it's unbelievable. and to be affiliated with it and be a part of it is something that even when it was 110 degrees in my shop and I'm rooting around in people's cars, cleaning the carpets and blowing it out, that was what I would look at and go, someday that'd be pretty rad. Someday that'd be good. When my boss was yelling at me because we got to get cars delivered, or, you know, one of my guys showed up drunk, like someday was like, that was something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And so to actually like do it, it was like, this is pretty amazing. Like, this is okay. I felt like I earned my wings.
It's, to me, you know, it's almost like being in a museum. It is a museum, but it's almost like being able to work on a priceless painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can actually get in there and touch it and polish it and work with it and make it look so much better.
Yeah.
It's really an honor, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you and Bob took over and started the new facility, what was the goal of it other than bringing the manufacturing basically back home?
Product quality.
Yeah.
Product quality and development was the ultimate goal. Even though I was doing the product development for a couple of years before that, when you're not handing out the money, you're not paid as close attention as you are when you are the person spending the dollar. So as soon as we became, you know, back in the actual manufacturing business, you know, I had people coming to me with products, with product ideas, and it's just like any other scenario where, you know, people are, you know, coming to you with a new product. They have promises, and then you need to find out whether those promises are actually being delivered by the product.
Yeah.
So, you know, people come and tell you with raw materials, they'll do all sorts of stuff, but you need to work with them and actually do the side-by-side and the double-blind testing to find out whether they're really doing the job or whether they're just charging, you know, 10 cents a pound more, 20 cents a pound more for their product, saying it's going to be so much better, and you're not getting, you know, a 3% improvement.
Yeah. So basically, like, so I don't think people understand the size of manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for you guys to be using an outside company when you in the early 80s, and then to create the new building and bring the manufacturing in-house, you were telling us earlier, like, it's the raw materials and the purchasing of the raw materials is something most people don't seem to understand.
No.
Like you're saying, you were buying from Shell, and they ask you how many rail cars.
Right.
Like,
Right. If you wanted to, so
it's not like, oh, just give me a 55-gallon drum.
right.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, we aren't actually a rail car sort of scenario. If you do talk to Shell, they want to see rail cars.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't just buy small amounts of these things. You usually end up having to buy a tote or at least several drums. You need to make agreements for your purchasing, that sort of thing. They just don't come and, you know, sell products to anybody.
Yeah.
And so we are a blender. One of the things that's interesting about being a blender, we're going to probably go into that tech or that terminology in a little bit, is that since we make so many different things, we end up buying 150 ingredients to, you know, take whichever ones we need to make the different things. You don't use the same thing to make a car soap as you do to make a tire dressing, as you do to make a polish or a compound. So we end up with lots of little things. I was just talking to a sales rep the other day where, you know, someone that makes just one thing can say, well, I'm going to get the best price on, you know, rail cars of this. Since we make so many things, we end up having to make, you know, deals all the way along the way to try and get these items.
Well, it's like you made that comment on Matt's podcast, or Matt made that comment. Like, you got to get the eggs, you got to get the flour, you got to get the sugar, but you've got so many ingredients to make so many different products. It's not like, oh, I got a deal on flour.
You want to make a cake, but you're not raising the chickens who eventually are going to make the eggs that are eventually going to, because that's getting down to a granular level that's unnecessary for. Well,
there's a lot of granularity in the opportunity within the manufacturers that do this. So, a large, you know, detergent raw material manufacturer is Stepan. Well, they probably make 200 different products.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. I mean, within their detergent line, they probably make 200 different products. So when you look at it, I can buy, their sulfonate product with, 6 carbons, 8 carbons, 10 carbons, 12 and then whether it's sulfonate or disulfonate. So there's a lot of granularity in what I can choose and pick. I don't need to make one with 4 carbons because I can buy one with 4 carbons.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It allows you to focus on other things.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
if you dedicate your time down to just figuring out this one ingredient, you might as well be the company that just specializes in making that ingredient.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're just using up a bunch of time that's better spent. If you want to be a detailing company and you want to formulate this stuff, you're getting the ingredients to make the eventual product, but you're not making those ingredients.
Well, and I think a lot of detailers think, and we've talked about this, there's detailers that think I can get a better deal if I can get it myself, or I can buy enough. Most of these detailers, and we see this, and we see this on the towel level, and but what we get is the customer that says, I'm going to spend $100 in towels. I'm going to spend a lot of money.
And to an individual, that can be a lot of money.
To an individual, that is a lot of money. And they'll call and go, hey, I'm going to buy a case of towels. I'm like, okay, no, not a problem. We'll help you out. We can give you a case of towels. That's not a problem. We'll sell you to you. Here's the price. Which towels do you want? But as a manufacturer, we sell to people who buy that same towel, but they buy $30,000 worth of that towel. So it's the numbers or the industry of scale, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So a detailer will look at it and go, I'm going to have you make this wax for me. You're like, okay, well, I can make that wax, but I'm going to need a minimum order quantity that's going to equal this. Sometimes those guys they can't reach that. There's no way. So then they'll reach out to some of these other blend houses that are making that for other manufacturers because they're able to I can buy 4 gallons of it and put a label on it. I can buy 5 gallons of this. I can buy 4 gallons of that, and I don't have to,
it's like on a as needed
create a new
basis.
product. We've got a raw version of the product, and we can add a color and a scent. We can change and tweak and adjust some levels, but for most detailers, they don't seem to understand that's why so many companies do a blend house for that kind of stuff, where you guys as a manufacturer, you are blending the products, but you're going from raw materials as the manufacturer. You're buying raw materials from the manufacturers of the raw materials.
Right.
And blending them together and then creating your products out of it.
Right.
And people could come to you, like you said, if a guy wants to spend $10,000 or 10,000 bottles of bead maker and can sell it, but
under his brand or whatever.
Yeah, at the same time, it's one of those but it's your product and you've made a name for it. Why would we?
Right. Yeah, there isn't a lot. As I mentioned, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of upside to us for that.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, again, this goes back to being a detailer. As I mentioned this earlier, I think it helps me. Obviously, helps me know when I've got a good product.
Yeah.
And then
because you know how to use it.
I know how to use it. I know what it's supposed to do. I also kind of know the needs in the industry and what I want to see happen. And then we can take it from there and move out to our professionals.
Yep.
In the marketplace that are going to tell us it's not quite as good as you thought it was, and then we can come back in and we can tweak it and work with them. This is what we do with Rennie on a regular basis, and try to keep honing in those products to be better and better and better.
They vet it.
Yeah. Well, and each guy's different. It could be what's great about the professional network is it could be a guy in a shop or a guy in his vehicle, or it could be a guy in a production setting, or it could be a car wash or a large car wash customer who's doing 300 cars a day. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, man, this, the one guy that's detailing bought a gallon of it and he's like, man, this is great stuff. I love it. It's working just like you said. But the large car wash that bought 55-gallon drum of it is going, it's not diluting enough. We're not getting enough water, it's not sheeting enough, or it's not cleaning. There's not enough active detergent in it. And they can give you that. You can go, oh, okay, well,
and the separation also
scale
of, say, like people in different climates, different stuff like that. These
right.
are all things you run into
because
I know one of the things with bead maker was humidity. So we can talk about that and the way to address that. But that's one of those things where different products behave differently based on the climate, the weather, whatever, what have you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because you guys are in Hayward.
We're in Hayward,
and
California.
It's going to be a lot different than the guy down in Orlando or Florida,
Sure.
in Florida, or even Australia, or, in New York.
It is. It's a challenge. It's a challenge because, you need to find out how your products work in all these different environments.
Yeah. So walk us through, like, kind of
a day in the life of you.
I
want to know. I want to know
what you do.
That's what I want to know.
Well, he gets up at 6.
Tell us,
has himself a shake.
Let's have him start at work.
Yeah.
Start at work.
I brush my teeth.
Well, I actually spend most of my time as an operations person. So I'd say I spend about 40% of my time on product testing and development, and the rest of the time I'm busy trying
shipping
to
out.
make sure that products get out the door in a quality and efficient fashion. The time I spend doing product development is actually my favorite time. I love doing it. But unfortunately, you can only have so many products.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no reason to put
if
just more of the same on the shelf. If I've got a great, if I got a great general purpose cleaner, then there's no reason to put another. Unless, there's some marketing things. You can kind of keep.
Yeah, you can always just change
renewing.
the color and the scent and the label.
You can work on it. Maybe in the background you
kidding.
can kind of work on developing something new, but there's no reason to have a new whatever out every single time. You can work on the stuff you've got and improve it.
Right. Yeah. So I do spend a lot of time on that. Usually that's what so we're very busy during the summer.
Yeah.
Things slow down, sometime around the middle of November. And then I kind of have a little bit more time to do these things. So I end up talking to people all year long.
Yeah.
And taking copious notes, gathering up materials, the really, really promising ones, the ones that are really exciting. I'll jump right on and work with those. But there's a whole stack of other materials that I have waiting for me that maybe just didn't seem like that big of a need, but some of them, they all need to be gone through, and some of them can, be really amazing. Yeah. So I spend, a good part of the winter going through those materials, and, side by side, I'm the only person that, has spots, that I won't do the whole thing. If you want to find out if a polish or a wax is lasting a long time, you can't do the whole hood because you can't tell when it's gone. You need to do sections. So, taped off sections. I'm the only person that does half a wheel with tire dressing. And I have to drive down the road that
Car
way.
Looks like a Harlequin as it's driving out.
You need your control.
To find out, whether if they're saying it lasts longer, if I'm saying it lasts longer, does it really last longer?
Longer than what?
Longer than what we're doing, or longer what somebody else says theirs is doing.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So you'll do that. You'll make sure everything goes out through the door, and then in terms of, do you see anything new or different from day to day with products that you're developing? Is there any hiccups and things like that you guys see and address? And we face as a microfiber towel company, we face speed bumps and things like that all the time. But that's just something that we always choose to get over. Is there anything you want to share with us as far as is there anything
we'll do even updates on towels?
Yeah.
So we'll go through a towel that is, even if it's a tried and true and it's been working great for us for 10 years, we want to update it, because for us, we're always trying to find something better. And if we can make it work better, make it that much more efficient for the customer, and increase the quality of it, that's one of the things we do. So we go through periodically and pick a towel and fix it. And find, maybe these are the issues that we get in comments from customers. This is what they don't like about it. We're gonna fix it and change it and continually try to make it easier and better and stronger and more capable.
Certainly in the realm of polishes, that's a regular process. Mm-hmm. There's been a big change. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, the abrasives that we were able to get a hold of were kind of offsets of other industries. I think partly because of maybe the changes in the industry or popularity in the industry, we are now seeing manufacturers of aluminas and abrasives that are customizing them to within a quarter micron of products that we can get. So this is really cool. So I always have the opportunity, especially in polishes, compounds, waxes, that sort of stuff, to keep tweaking them. In general purpose cleaners, biodegradability is a really good hot topic. And so, there's the clean ingredients list, there's the safer choice list from the EPA, there's, direct release materials. So, trying to improve biodegradability, and then there's performance. I've got people coming to me every day, or at least every week. I had Dow Chemical in saying, okay, well, this surfactant stands for surface active agent. This is surfactant, and it's going to be, 30% better. You're going to get 30% better cleaning. So my job is to find out whether I'm getting 30% better cleaning from that product, or, is AkzoNobel's product as good?
Better? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you don't even think it's like any industry, like each thing's going to break down and work a little better, just like we do with towels or other products. You're doing it also with their with the raw materials as well. And finding out whose raw materials working better.
So, we talked a little bit about, the liquid in the bottle thing, and so basically it's just liquid in a bottle, and there's a myriad of chemicals in there that are supposed to do their job, but to anybody else, it's just liquid in a bottle.
Yeah.
The formulator is the only one that really knows all the subtleties of all the raw materials and how they work together or how they wouldn't work together.
Well, and one of the crazy things you brought up to us was it's also the bottle and how what the formulation is and how it's going to work inside that bottle without destroying the bottle.
The bottle material.
Because some of every bottle manufacturer uses different types of plastic and different types of mixtures, and it can counteract.
Yes, they can react with the bottle. So we've settled pretty much on high-density polyethylene has been really good.
Which is HDPE.
HDPE, it's recyclable. It's very durable. We use a special version for things that have solvents in them, so that the solvents don't leach through the bottle. And they're actually coming up with new formulations for that as well. And then we also do a lot of PET bottles. The PET bottles but we use a thicker material. It's not as thin as a water bottle. These guys, they're cutting, micrograms out of their bottle to save on their million bottle thing. So they're saving money by putting a thinner bottle, but we want a durable bottle.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at even like the products that come in these bottles, these are a good sturdy, hard bottle. I've been able to drop some of these off my thing, and they don't land. But one of the things I think that's cool, also, if you guys haven't ever noticed, but on the back there's a batch code.
Yes.
So you can find out if you do have an issue or something with the product, you're able to know
exactly where it came from.
You can check which batch and how it was mixed and find out if there was an issue or a problem.
And so, again, it's the process. It's part of the deal about being in business a long time. You're able to establish these steps that create quality control. So we're able to track back on which drums, where everything came from.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's so much stuff.
No, that's not something you always see necessarily. So that's a really, really helpful little pointer for people who are buying these.
And again, one of the fun things is that there's a number on the back and you can call and ask questions, and that's one of the reasons we love doing business with you guys. But one of the things we did talk about is chemical safety.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that maybe guys don't seem to understand. And maybe recently, like our last podcast, we talked about the acid use.
Because we made a video
for removing water spots. And yes, it blew a lot of people's minds. And me being an old school detailer, I've been around hydrofluoric acids and wheel acids
very familiar
since I was 17. I worked at a car wash that used to foam it in an archway. And I would sit there and pressure wash cars before they'd go through, and as the car made it through, it already had like 3 cars in the line. They would turn on the blowers, and blowers would spray that foam, that acidic foam all over me.
Slowly frying Levi.
Slowly frying. I'm a 17-year-old kid washing cars. So I joke that I'm going to have some sort of weird.
Health, wealth, and happiness.
I'm going to have some sort. We used to joke that if you spend the first day in the tunnel, the next day you didn't have a voice. because of the acid.
That should be
It
a
would burn
clue
your
right
throat.
there.
So we always joke because the kid would come to work and he'd have no voice. We're like, oh, you were prepping yesterday. Cool.
Cool.
But
That's me today.
yeah, but a lot of people don't seem to understand. And when we made that video, yes, we used a wheel acid on it, and a lot of people were like, "What acid? Where'd you get that? What'd you do with that? Where'd you get it?" And my only concern is that people want to go with the
one that did the most work
option,
quickest. Yeah.
the nuclear option right off the bat.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that they need to understand about that. And even to your guys' point, you won't manufacture
No.
the acid in your facility
No, we won't.
because you don't want to have to deal with that product. It is a very toxic product.
Yes. So wheel acid, you do not want wheel acid in your house at all. It really should only be used by a professional. There's a lot of reasons. The main one is the safety reason.
Yeah.
I think from a strictly detailing perspective, you're not going to be doing your wheels any favors or anything on your car doing any favors by spraying acid on it.
Yeah.
So, over time, a one-time application at a car dealership, okay, you're fine.
Yeah. Or your detailer, you bought a car, you bring it to a detail shop, they use it to get it clean.
Right.
The detailer's not going to be washing those wheels for you every week with acid.
Right. You don't. Yeah. So you don't want to keep using it on your wheels.
Yeah.
You don't want. A lot of the water spot removers are acidic as well. You don't want to. There are specific chemical bonds that are broken in paint coatings by acids. Won't make a visible difference in your paint, but when your paint falls off, 5 years down the road, it shouldn't have fallen off the paint or off the car.
Yeah.
Those of you that remember you see a Jeep driving around from the 90s, there's whole hunks of paint off the side of the car. It's like,
with
absolutely,
half the hood.
and I have no idea why that is, but it could be an acid problem or an acid issue that was on that paint. So and then there's just a safety. The whole safety thing with the acid products is they are just toxic and deadly.
Yeah.
We don't make them in our facility. We do sell them. I would rather not. When people ask me if they should use them, I'll tell them every time no. But you don't want it in your house. It's just too much of a risk.
Yeah.
Somebody could, spray it in their eyes and they'd be blind, or you could drink it and you'd be, or you spill it on yourself and you can.
I've had some chemical burns on my hands.
Yeah.
From acid. It's not fun.
It'll go right through your skin and attack the calcium in your bones.
It dries out your skin, and so you can almost see your pores. It's very weird. The burns are very strange. But I joke that's probably where most of my arthritis is from in my hands is because of that. But no, acid is one of those things that for so many years, detailers and production level detailers use. But there is the advent of a lot of great non-acid wheel cleaners and all-purpose cleaners that can just break dust and remove it. And remember, folks, like acid's whole goal is to eat calcium, not break dust. It's not gonna. Yes, it's gonna help remove it, but it's not designed for that. And a lot of detailers, I mean, that's you go into any major detail shop in the country, and they'll use acid on wheels to clean wheels. That's just the normal run of the mill, and that's where, when you can bring in other wheel cleaners and other wheel products and show them and go, that's not designed for that purpose that you're using it for, and everybody talks about it as wheel acid, but it's a calcium remover.
So the other products that don't use acid, they work fantastically.
Well, like
if you had a pressure washer, it would probably take out 98% of brake dust, except for maybe if you were, you didn't clean your wheels very much and you had some really deep crevices. And there's a great brush with bristles that go straight out. You just come and jab at it and you're done.
Yeah,
and then you spray it off.
Yeah, and you guys have a wheel cleaner, Brake Buster.
Yeah.
That is a non-acid wheel cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Is almost, let's say, it feels like the way it lathers is almost gel-like.
Mm-hmm.
The way it comes out, you spray it on, and then you can scrub it, and it lathers up really well. Is there Tell us about that one. I'm in love with it. I will tell you that much right now.
I put that product together. It actually, the way it's put together, it's meant to, using surfactants, it's meant to mimic the action of an acid wheel cleaner. So it has surfactants in it. So the process of an acid wheel cleaner is it's called the hydrogen ion substitution. What it does is the hydrogen ions from an acid, that's what acid is, actually displace the minerals that are stuck to the wheel. So I basically took positively charged detergents and hydrogen ion has a positive charge to it. We got to go back to the beginning. And now I took a hydrogen ion or a positively charged detergent to make it so that it would do something similar. Now it doesn't have the activity of a hydrogen ion. That's pretty aggressive, a pretty aggressive molecule. So, but it does mimic it. So you end up with about the same process going on.
Yeah. I used it this weekend and it cleaned my wheels amazingly.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where I was like, whoa, I've used all-purpose cleaners. I've used iron removers. I haven't had anything clean that easily and that simply before. And Anthony did the same thing.
Well, it's why wheel cleaners aren't the same as every other cleaner, right? They do have to be formulated differently to do their job.
Well, and then like on Terminator, the reason we carried is we didn't have an enzyme remover in or an enzyme-based cleaner in our lineup. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that works so great that people love is because of the way it breaks up stains. Mm-hmm. So what is the basic use of an enzyme? What is its purpose when cleaning carpets and seats and upholstery and stains in general? So
enzymes are proteins that have specific chemical reactivity. So in the case of an enzyme that is a protease, it breaks a bond in a protein. So a single protease will break only one bond in only one protein. But when you use a category of proteases, you get a bunch of enzymes that will break a lot of bonds in a lot of different proteins. In this case, we've actually done proteases, we've done lipases, we've done forgetting the name for sugar. I can't help you.
We don't know.
I know we're talking about like proteins and lipids and stuff like that.
Yeah, proteins, lipase. Anyway. And
point being,
4 of them. There's 4 of them. One for sugar, one for starch, one for proteins, and one for fats. Anyway, they all combine together, and they take a little time. Yeah. Enzymes aren't really fast. You spray it on, you let it sit, you let it do its job. There's other things involved with handling an enzyme so that it does its job correctly, making sure that it's in a solution that performs well. And when you put the whole thing together, man, it just eats up stains.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff, and I've used it on pet stains too.
Yes. So basically, organic stains are going to be its main use. We do have. There's another detergent in there. Some wetting agents, some dynamic performing products that actually help break loose other stains. Yeah. But the enzymes work on organic stains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I noticed is that. So before I use this, right, in my daily Honda Civic that I have, I'm pretty sure a dog used to live in there. Quite literally, I've never seen so much dog hair and such a bad dog smell. And when I first detailed it, I pulled all the dog hair out. I pulled all the panels out. I mean, I literally gutted the entire car minus all of the carpet. And I hit it with, degreaser.
He pulled the seats to vacuum.
I hit it with degreaser. I hit it with, carpet cleaner. I hit it with all these different things, shampoo, O&R, all these different products. And after putting everything back together, no dog hair, right? But I still had the dog smell, right? And I changed the air filter. I did all the different things I could do to get it to where I'm like, come on, let's get rid of this dog smell. And then finally, and it would always come in weird waves. Like it would
get warm in the car.
It would be like a rainy day, right? And then I turn on the AC or turn on the heater, and I'm like, oh God.
It's like somebody just breathed on the.
I'm like, it's like a wet dog or a hot day, right? Yeah. I roll, if I forget to roll the window down, I get in there, it's really muggy or humid. And then it was funny because it was always in the seats. It was always in weird areas. And I went and picked some of this up, and I was just like, you know what? Just F it. I'm going to spray it all over the entire carpet, entire seats, everything in the car. I'll let it sit. I'll agitate it with microfiber towel, come back after a while, and then see how it does. And to this day, I haven't had that dog smell come back. And I don't know why that was. I'm guessing it's because something in here attacked that smell.
Yeah, there was probably oils and things that hadn't been removed that it broke apart.
Yeah,
and that's what they do. They actually goes. It's a very interesting. It's like it's kind of like a little machine. An enzyme is.
Yeah.
And what it does is it goes around and it finds the thing that it wants to grab hold of. It's like a key. You see this in like the demonstration, right? It's simplified. It's got you got a hole and you got a round thing and it's going to fit in the hole, or a square thing or whatever. And that's very much, they're very specific and they're very it's very physical. So they fit a protein, and when they do their job, they just break, and then they move on to the next one. And they break that one, and they just keep doing that.
Interesting. Yeah, because it was one of those things. I'm like, out of all these things I've used, it hasn't gotten rid of the dog smell. I mean, and we've only been carrying this for several months, so you know what? Maybe it could come back with time. I'm not sure, but as of this point, I haven't smelled that smell since, and I've been pretty stoked on it. And also, this is pretty cost-efficient product. You get a lot. You get a lot for a little money, which is pretty nice. So you can get pretty liberal with it as well.
I have a gallon of it because we had a new puppy, and put new carpet in the house, and got a new puppy at the same time, which was probably not the best plan. But it helps to just, I have a gallon of it in my garage, and I fill up this bottle with it, and I put it out there in the with the rest of the household cleaners, and my wife will use it if he has an accident. Thankfully, he hasn't for a while, but it's one of those products that I use a lot of. And then I love using it just in. I detail a little bit on the side for friends and family, and I spray this on their carpet. And then I let it sit, I agitate it, and then I hit it with some, I'll either just wipe it down or vacuum it. And 90% of the time, all I'm using is this to clean carpets and fabric.
Well, a lot of people's mistake is they go and they try and mask this stuff. They take something that has, like a little... certain kinds of air fresheners will leave kind of a film. Different stuff will, it'll mask it for a little while, but you're not getting rid of the source of the problem, which is why this is a little different.
Yeah, exactly. If you hit a smell with stripper scent, right, it's only going to help for so long, right?
It smells great for a little bit, and then it's gone. But
but it's interesting to learn, and I think, I'm sure you can go in depth on so many other products, but in terms of anything new? I know you said you're not trying to always reinvent the wheel. Are you guys working on anything new in the future?
Inspiration.
Are you guys working
about
coatings?
Changing the formula a little bit on that, or
we are working on a trim coating.
Trim coating.
So people do use inspiration on trim. And
I used it on mine.
Yeah, and if the trim's new, it does a pretty good job. If the trim is old, which I have an older car. You should maybe try it on the car you're driving around now. I found it just basically disappears.
Yeah.
So I had an earlier version of the inspiration that I pulled back out, and it works great. I really like it. Yeah. So
I've got it on my car, and I've been very impressed with it. It's been on there for about 8 months. So and it
is this on the trim?
It's on the trim, and it's on the whole car, and it's on a 2014 Camry.
Okay,
and it's bright red, and that car gets. I wash it with Pearl, and then I use Bead Maker on it.
Right,
a weekly application of Bead Maker on top of it. But that thing it's shiny. That's what I love about Inspiration is how glossy it is, and then combined with Bead Maker, it almost like we've said. Anthony put Inspiration on his little red.
Yeah, it managed to make that little thing look...
Polished a turd, man.
It's crazy how shiny and glossy it is. I haven't seen a gloss like that before. And then paired with Bead Maker, it almost creates a shell over the vehicle.
Yeah, and the better the paint underneath, you can kind of almost have to look at things 2 or 3 times sometimes. I said, we were down in your facility where you take pictures and stuff. I've seen these cars... and you just have trouble finding where the edges are. They're so shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. So what is so why does BeadMaker 1 work so well with Inspiration?
Mm-hmm.
Other than that you design both of them and you put them together and they
So
what's the magic between the two of them? Because Bob was telling us that you can cure Inspiration by putting BeadMaker on it.
Well, I'm not sure if that was worded quite the way I would.
Okay.
So what?
So set the record straight.
So when you
he's not here.
put on a coating,
Right.
there's a curing process that goes on.
Right.
It starts off as separate molecules that then begin combining and cross-linking with each other. Well, this takes a while.
Yeah.
I actually
And Inspiration's a humidity cured.
yes,
product.
it pulls moisture from the air.
Yeah.
Right. So it's part of the process
IR
of
cured.
bonding. Right.
Yeah.
It's not or a UV. Right.
UV. Yeah.
So it's part of the process of it going together, but it takes a while, right? So initially, you've got a lot of loose molecules. They're all able to freely to move around, and they start doing, and they bond together, and they cross-link, and the whole ball of wax. But over time, they get locked into place. There's still bonding that's going on. There's still open bonding sites that are available. And what we like to recommend people do is about an hour after you've coated a car, we feel like the majority of the bonding and the polymerizing has already taken place on the coating, but there's still a little bit left. And BeadMaker has the ability to actually attach to some of those spots that are still left available.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Got it.
So, we don't like to go too early. We like the whole Inspiration thing to do its Inspiration thing.
Yeah.
But then what happens is, it's a crystalline structure. It's kind of rough. BeadMaker is a softer material. It gets in there and it kind of just flows over, but it can attach to those. And then it starts to attach to itself as well.
Okay.
So you end up with this kind of multiple phase process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm visualizing right now. I'm starting to see all these rocky structure with like some type of mudslide, and then it kind of starts to level itself out or something. You know what I mean?
Self-leveling nature.
The mud
then the sun
sticks to
comes
each
out
other.
and dries the mud, and it's all nice and smooth.
and then it's nice and smooth, and there we go.
So I had done one of our meetings. So I tried to pull all these things together in microns and mils and try and give people an idea of what size we're talking about. We're talking really small. So when you're dealing with a 2 micron coating when you're done, that's about what the layer is on for one layer of Inspiration. A hair's like 100 microns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about really small chemistry going on here. And so when we're talking about these cracks and crevices and stuff, obviously they're not really visible, but they're in a chemical and in a physical standpoint, that's exactly what's going on, but it's a little hard to visualize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
you said, in terms of Inspiration, I kind of want to go back to that for a quick second. So you can layer Inspiration because I want to have like a whole podcast dedicated to BeadMaker, and so I want to leave that as much as possible. But I do want to have a moment to talk about other products.
Yeah.
So Inspiration, you can layer that. That is a layerable product.
Yeah.
How many layers total? What do people typically do, and what's the lifespan of that?
So we recommend 2.
Okay.
I'm still working with, again, my little squares that are years old now.
Yeah.
And they're, it's on it's one of the earlier tests of the product. There's still this square. You can still feel the edge. You can still see it. It's on a white van that we have. So we're talking 2 years on just 2 coatings. I don't know how many coatings you really need to do.
How long do you wait between the coatings? Since you got to let it do its thing.
15 minutes, 15
Okay.
to 45 minutes. So when you're formulating these coatings, you have a choice of how fast you want them to cure. You cure too fast, it cures in the bottle. You cure too slow, it just stays like slime on the surface.
Yeah.
So by changing the amounts of catalyst and things that are in and the cross-link and reactive ingredients in it, you can adjust how long it takes to cure.
Okay.
So we pick a time that is, you can't leave it too long. It might get sticky. You might get dust stuck on it. So we pick a time that's like between 15 minutes and 45 minutes.
Depending on the humidity of the
area. A little bit depending on the humidity and the conditions. Yeah. And so certain conditions cure a lot faster and certain ones don't. So we usually feel like between 15 and 45 minutes is a good time. Because I saw actually one of your podcasts, just kind of watching a few things about layering things earlier. And, you can, if it hasn't cured, you can take some back off.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to make sure that you've got that coating on there, that it's dry to the touch.
It's like I made the comment like house paint. Like you paint one layer of paint on your wall and you can keep going around the room, but if your friend comes over and grabs that same roller and puts it on that spot where it's still wet, they're basically just picking up that
And there are
paint.
some folks out there who really don't want to hear that because of all the time they invested into it and went, there's no way I did that.
There's still a 3-coat.
Yeah,
I
hope
put
I
3
didn't.
coats of wax on my car.
So there's no real limit to the number of coats you can put on
as long
inspiration,
as
you're giving it a chance to do its curing. So and each layer is going to get a little thicker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I just don't know whether there's a real value when I'm seeing, a couple of years out of two coatings.
Well, and at that point, it's like if you're not seeing a discernible difference between, 2 coats of inspiration and 5 coats of inspiration,
then there's really not
why
a point.
do you need to do that?
Using it to use it.
Yeah. And if 2 coats is going to get you the best level or best
and I think
gloss and shine and protection,
I think the 2 coats idea is almost to make sure that you have
proper coverage.
Yeah.
That way you didn't miss a spot or go too light in one spot or too heavy.
Now, because I don't really understand
Dane's
all
not
this
really
stuff
a
on
detailer.
I'm not really a detailer.
He plays one on TV.
I'm more of like the philosophical, faux intellectual, whatever you want. But any rate, what I wanted to ask was, okay, so I remember we talked about back in the day on another podcast, I forget which one, but we talked about where there's a certain point where adding too much clear coat just becomes irresponsible because eventually it's going to crack or something like that. You're going to get issues with that. With coatings, is there similar issues with that kind of thing on certain kinds of, coatings, where if you just put too much on there, you're actually creating problems versus...
you mean clear, not... You mean...
Well, and I'm talking about ceramic coatings versus clear coatings. But if the
because you can put a lot of clear on a car.
Yeah, because somebody will put a ton of clear on a car, but at a certain point you put like 30 layers of clear on a car and you end up with, issues. If you're not planning to take it all down like Jason Kilmer style, if you're leaving it there, I remember I've heard horror stories about it cracking and things like that. I just wonder if there's ever a breaking point like that with, say, like a ceramic type coating or anything like that, where you'd run into something maybe like that. But then again, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm just saying it because I'm sure somebody's thinking about this out in the audience.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
It is a very thin coating.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's not.
So when you're not
under 3 mils or 2 mils.
You're not getting anywhere near those numbers. Right. Like
so
2 microns.
2 microns, not mils, microns. But that's still very small.
Yeah, it's still very small. I haven't run into that. I have, because I've, misused the product because I have that opportunity. I mean, I have done really thick coatings on things.
Okay.
And just left them. And then, of course, they don't level out right and they don't look very good, but they're hard as a rock.
They look bad, but they're sure tough.
They're very tough. And they don't crack. But these are on test panels. They're not out in the weather.
Right. Okay.
So,
and I'm only asking that because I don't want someone to feel dumb out there for thinking it. So I'm just laying it out
and
there.
It's a good question because there are people who question ceramic coatings and companies that recommend higher and higher and higher amounts of that ceramic, like 7 or 5 or 7 coats. There are people that say, well, I have issues with that because I've seen fracturing or the product because of the amount of fluctuation between the panel and the paint itself and the temperature changes causing the ceramic coating because it's not moving.
Well, they are very hard.
Break.
Right. And hard.
It does have that.
Yeah, in that sense, hard and brittle. I mean, I go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right. So, I this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any problem with it myself.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
And I know it differs from product to product. I was just getting an idea for like diminishing returns kind of thing. So
yeah, I was really impressed though. With just how strong inspiration really is, and because when me and Levi first started playing with it, I'm like, here, give me this bottle, right? And I just grabbed the bottle. And I just went drop on a hood. I'm like, don't touch that.
Yeah,
leave
we
it.
left it alone.
I'm like, leave it. Just leave it. Do that. So we left it alone and came back to it. And like a week later, and I went, took my fingernail, scratched at it. Just nothing was happening. And I'm like, okay, all right. We took a polisher, polished over an area. Not a lot was happening either, right? And I'm sitting there like, holy crap. And then it was like Jason Kilmer had come like
a razor blade,
like a day later or whatever it was, and he's like, what's on this? And I'm like, and he's like, let me show you how to take that off. And as he was even taking a razor blade and scrubbing it off, he was like,
that's on there.
He's like, that's not clear coat.
He's like, that's on there. And I'm like, yeah, it is on there.
He
and
goes, I can get it. I'll get some 600. I'll get it.
Like, and you brought it out.
And he took it out along with the clear coat. But I mean, it was just crazy to see how durable that was. And on my car itself, having it on there, I only did one coat. I did
only one coat on my Camry.
I only did one coat on there. Kind of wish I would have done two. I think I did two on my hood because I had to go back at a high spot that I had to take down. But on the rest of the vehicle, I did one coat. And I would say that the scratch resistance is much greater after putting the coating on there, because I used to be very picky about how I wash the car. Lately, I'm just been
doing this is his weekly beater.
This is just my weekly beater, and I just been one bucket wash method with a.
It's a big step for him.
Whatever I find, my other car I'm very particular with, but this car I'm like whatever happens, and I'm always surprised when I pull it out in the sun. And I look, I'm like, what kind of swirls we got? After I'm like, wow. Somehow, out of all these improper washes I've given it, it still looks this good.
They do continue hardening over time.
Yeah.
Even though, they're dry to the touch, you're done after, whatever, 24 hours or whatever. They're going to continue to get harder. And that was demonstrated to me by one of my earlier versions where it failed what I thought was going to be the hardness test. Where, I would go over to these panels and I would, sand on them and just see, is this different than the paint? And take some, 3000 sandpaper and just kind of rub it across and see if I'm getting less sanding marks. So this one failed that. But I left it there.
Yeah.
And it was probably, 6 months later, I came back and I'm working on the same panel, having forgotten that I'd coated that little corner, and I'm sanding along and I'm like, what? Oh. This whole corner just is unsandable.
Yeah.
And you just drag the sandpaper across and it just stops right there, and it's just like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So this was a failed version, but it did show that eventually it got there.
So what happens? I mean, I know that waxes degrade over time. I know that sealants degrade over time, right? And things start to break down, right? Is that the same process that happens with a coating, just at a much longer interval? Or how does that happen? How does the breakdown happen? How does it eventually stop working as a coating?
The timeline of a coating.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to...
Oh, no, we stumped him.
I think you did. You did stump me. All I know that, our experience is, again, on panel spots, is that it's like they disappear. You're like, coating. You see this line, you see the mist and dew and whatever, and you see this very obvious. And then at some point, and I don't actually know what happens, at some point that line just goes away. And I don't know whether it's UV breakdown, whether it's, some sort of weathering scenario. I don't really know what physically happens to that coating, what you would describe that chemically is.
So what immediately comes to mind is in a vacuum, would that happen, or is it because it's out in the elements?
I believe it's because in the elements. Yes.
Okay.
Nature.
If you coat something and then you keep it in a garage and basically don't
just
touch it with anything except for one of your high quality towels.
Yes.
Like
the Eagle 500.
Yes. Then I don't believe it would ever go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and to a point, it was kind of like what we were talking about at Air Force One with Beadmaker. This was the first year that Beadmaker had been sitting on the surface of the plane with a cover over it for the entire year.
Right.
A full roof cover. So even though the sides were open and it was still available to be hit by the elements, it wasn't taking direct sunlight on the tarmac like it had previously all those other years.
Right.
And they were washing the planes. They basically
they do wash the
just
planes.
wash them.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
They wash. I don't even know if they towel dry them off or what, but how they wash them. But
I think they just wash them with water, to tell you the truth. I don't, because the area is next to some rivers and that sort of stuff, so I don't think they're allowed to use much.
Yeah. But they were finding that bead maker was staying, was still on the plane.
So this year when we went back to the plane, they were expecting the standard 6-day process, and it only took them 2 days.
Yeah.
So
That's
it was
significant.
It was significant. It was fun. It gave us a lot of other time to go to a lot of other aircraft, and hopefully that scenario continues, and we'll see that in the future, and we can keep expanding out. There's always a little touch up that needs to be done.
But that is a scenario where even though it's exposed to temperature and can get some rain, can get some snow, wind, dust, it's only ever getting cleaned with water, but it's not taking the amount of UV damage or hot and cold fluctuations as much as like your everyday car driving around. It's not getting any of the pollutants as much.
It's effectively
it's on the
sitting
side
in a
of a freeway,
carport.
but it's sitting in a carport for a year.
Yeah.
And so like we're saying, on a kind of a different scale of a vacuum.
A carport with your ceiling 120 feet in the air.
Yeah, a carport that can fit like 5 747s next to each other.
Yeah. That's a big carport.
Yeah.
I think that just has been interesting to me to see how when a coating fails, because I've seen that all the time on social media. On people posting on Facebook forums,
what happened to this car?
And things like that. They're like, so what happened? This car was coated, and look what I did with the water. And and typically it's all based off the water reaction, right? And they're like, oh, this happened here, right? But then there's like weird anomalies where they say, oh, the coating's not doing what it was supposed to do anymore. And then somebody says, hey, we'll clay the coating really quick. And they're like, why would I clay the coating? And then they clay the coating, and they spray the water, like, oh, the coating works again.
Oh, it's still there.
Or it's or an iron remover on the paint, and all of a sudden everything works fine again.
And you're sitting there and you're like, how? I don't understand how this is all working. And so that's always been like a big curious thing to me. I'm like, are these coatings actually ever failing? Are some of them failing? Because I do understand that I have polished off coatings, right?
Sure.
And I do know that when you start polishing a coating, you
can feel it.
You feel it, and then you look at your pad. You're creating this swirl of like I don't know how to describe it. It's this thick resin that you're pulling off, and you feel it and you see it coming off. I had a microfiber cutting pad. Turned yellow. It was white, turned yellow, and I was like, weird, right? This is strange that this is happening. But I've pulled off coatings, but not that I would ever. Not that I feel that most people that are into detailing, especially the hobbyists and the guys that want to change up their coatings or try different things, are ending the life of their coating before it would ever end.
Well, and the other thing is application process. We talked about this yesterday. One of our comments. One thing I always recommend to people is if you're going to put a coating on, use the prep solution made by the company, the same company. So
because the particular guy thought, I'll just make a homemade solution because why am I going to spend money on every different paint prep?
There's a reason to use this as your prep agent before putting your coating on. And I tell that to people is it doesn't matter if you're buying C Quartz, you're buying Inspiration, you're buying Ceramic Pro, G Technique, Optimum. Use the paint prep that they have developed because that cleans the surface on a molecular level to allow you to put the coating on and allow it to adhere. And in some instances provides the leveling ability, helps level the coating because that surface has been cleaned with that. Where I basically said, you can't, yes, you can save some money. And you can go down to Walgreens and pick up a bottle of IPA and mix it with some water and clean the surface. Yes, you can do that. Can you guarantee that the bond of that coating is going to be the same if you use the chemical company's product to use that? Not really.
I think it goes back to we're back to the liquid in a bottle problem. Right, so the formulator knows what's in that bottle. They know why it cures. They know what it cures to. They know how long it takes to cure. And they know what they want that surface to be like when you put their product on. Now, they maybe there's a slight, pH change. Maybe they're just trying to remove oils. Maybe there's some sort of adhesive promotion that they're able to have put in their prep product.
Right.
So it's all working together. They know what they want to have that surface be. Now, we're assuming in our case that everybody has prepped their surface correctly. They've polished it because you don't want to be coating over a damaged surface. So we're assuming that you've done all your polishing, you've done all your cleaning, you've got all the basic surface irregularities out of it. Now we just want to take a quick little just bump the advantage a little bit, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because I went to a clinic when I first started learning about coatings to watch a guy teach about coatings and how we do this and And one of the funny things was we watched how everybody installed this one coating. And one guy goes, "Oh, I don't ever use that applicator because I think it's going to scratch the surface." And everyone's like, there's 20 guys sitting in this room. 18 of us have never had that issue scratching. One guy's the teacher, and one guy is the guy that says, it's going to scratch. And we're like, okay, what do you use? And he goes, I use those blue shop towels with the degreaser on them. And I wrap that, and then I pour the coating on there, and I put it on my truck, and I coat all my customers' cars that way.
Wow. I bet you do.
And and we had a person with us who was on that trip with us, and she said, I know why all his coatings are failing.
Oh.
And it was because he brought his truck in. He's like, yeah, show us how to clean that. And the trainer went up, sprayed a product on the door, washed it, and was like, you don't have a coating on here. And he said, yeah, I do. I've got that coating on that side of the truck, and I've got that coating on that side of the truck. And he walked back over, washed both sides, and was like, there's nothing on this surface.
And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but there's
he's like,
really
there's nothing
here.
on it. He's like, no. And everybody was kind of like, what? And then he explained. He's like, well, my application was I did this, and I used the blue shop towels that you get at Costco.
The paper ones?
The paper ones.
Right.
Yeah.
That have a degreaser in them to help you clean the oils off your hand. And he wrapped it up, and he wrapped it around a thing, and he showed. And he's like, this is what I use. He had a roll of it in his truck.
You've added another chemical to the process.
You've added another chemical to the process.
Right.
So now the agents that are designed to bond are maybe interfering with whatever was in that towel.
Right.
So again, there's a reason that the manufacturers state, use this application method, use this prep agent, use that. So that way you can ensure the longevity of the product.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like these are crazy expensive products to get to use on your presumably not cheap coating that you're applying to this stuff. I mean, you're spending good money on the coating. You want to make sure you give it the best possible chance to work right in the beginning. So why not take what the manufacturer says is the suggested method? Because if anything goes wrong and you have to call that manufacturer, the first thing they're going to ask is, how did you prep the surface? And if you didn't use a product, they're going to go, well, there's your problem.
Well, I mixed up my own bottle of IPA, and then I used some...
let me stop you right there.
Some shop towels and
some
the
baby shampoo and water.
I wiped it down with baby shampoo
because people assume it's just IPA in a different color, and it's the same all... whatever you use, they're all the same. But like you were saying, maybe there's an adhesion promoter. Maybe there's different things going on in different companies coating surface preps. I absolutely believe that. So... just don't take that risk.
Well, you're not going to use the entire bottle on the car. That's the thing I don't understand is guys are like, I don't have the money for that.
And that's not to say you don't go make your own IPA mix for just general IPA purposes. I mean, if you're going to use them for other things, fine, go do that. But when it comes time to put on that company's coating, just spend the whatever it costs for a surface prep bottle. I know, it's not even that much.
5 cars out of it, so it's a $2 add-on to your coating.
Yeah, well, like that guy, he said, well, I can make my IPA mixer for like $5. And it's like, well, okay. I mean, you figure about how far this goes. Are you really saving money by
it just goes
opening
back
up
to
Pandora's box for issues?
If you're going to cut corners that way, then you probably shouldn't be cutting those corners.
Probably shouldn't be applying coatings.
Yeah.
But
I think that is the deal when you're talking, like we're setting up our inspiration website. And so we have a series of, trained installers. I think all the coating companies are in the same boat. They really want to make sure that the people are doing it right because they're putting their name behind it. And to get, 2 to 4 microns of coating to last 2 years is pretty amazing. You want to make sure it was done right.
Yeah. Well, you don't want a guy with a shop towel wrapped around things going, hey, Dave, I'm having issues.
I would say that would
I've
not
got to
be
redo every coating that's come through.
He must not have believed the coding training.
Yeah, and it was because of that he was like, oh, maybe I should start.
Well, and
that.
there are a lot of skeptics out there who assume every company is just out there to steal their money, and even though they're making products, it's just going to be something where it's a quick grab, and they don't want to deal with the aftermath. But the truth is, when you're making a product, you want it to last, because if something's wrong, you want to know what process went into making it that way, so you can know, I don't want that to happen again. Well, if it's something you can control.
It goes back to education, and you guys have a training center in your facility as well.
We do.
Yeah.
So for your distributors and things of that, they can come in and learn how to use everything in the right setting.
Absolutely.
So that if they're selling it or even installing it, they can they know the right method, and they're learning the proper technique and the proper methods so that they can answer those questions as well for customers, which that's, again, the whole reason for education.
All comes back to education.
The whole reason for people trying to do the things and the reason that we all belong to, like the IDA.
Right.
To help promote that, to help push that so that everybody understands the point of that. So I think this was cool. It's fun having you in here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're going to pick your brain on some more stuff, but I think this pretty much wraps up a good session, I think, just for a warm-up. And then who knows, we'll dive into a whole episode about Bead Maker or something, but for the time being, it's really been a pleasure having you here.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
Dave.
It was a pleasure for me too. I got to see the room.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's always
This
everybody's
is
first
the
thing when they walk
room.
in.
Right.
Like, this is the room.
This is the room. Anybody a Doctor Who fans? Oh, it's bigger on the inside.
It's bigger on the inside.
That's awesome.
Oh,
All
man.
right, Dane.
All
Cool,
right.
guys.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you so much, guys. As always, I want to thank you for listening or watching if you're on the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel. And leave us a review, leave us a rating. We always appreciate that on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or wherever you are. But once again, if you got questions for Dave, he's going to be here for a few days. If you leave your comments down below, we might be able to catch him in time that he could help answer them. But anyway, guys, once again, thank you so much for listening. And till next time, adios.
See ya.
See ya.